Tesla's making a surprise investment in Bitcoin. Our Phil LeBeau joins us now with more. Phil.
Hey, Morgan, this is something that's been rumored for some time on Wall Street, at least for the last couple of weeks. And then this morning, in a 10-K filing, Tesla said, yes, it has bought $1.5 billion in Bitcoin. As you take a look at shares of Tesla, you might be saying to yourself, okay, $1.5 billion in Tesla or in Bitcoin. What does that work out in terms of how much cash they have on hand? In their regulatory filing, which they said they may also accept Bitcoin as a form of payment. If somebody wants to buy a Tesla Model S using Bitcoin, that's a possibility. But in terms of its cash position, it had $19.4 billion in cash. You take out $1.5 billion of Bitcoin, or to be spent on Bitcoin, you're looking at about 8% of its cash position, cash and securities position, that would now be tied up with Bitcoin. As we mentioned, this is something that has been rumored for some time on Wall Street. Elon Musk himself, if you look at some of his previous tweets, he tweeted, "Bitcoin is my safe word," back on December 20th. And remember this? Remember when he changed his Twitter profile on January 29th? Well, it may be a little hard to see there, but we circled it. He put the Bitcoin symbol right there on his Twitter feed, and it was there for a number of days. One other chart we want to show you, Tesla versus General Motors. And why are we showing you these two stocks? Because General Motors will be reporting its earnings on Wednesday. You'd be curious to see what kind of questions CEO Mary Barra gets about whether or not General Motors has ever thought about accepting Bitcoin or investing in Bitcoin. Not sure she'll say much on the conference call if that question was posed to her. But guys, this is one more case where Elon Musk is going one direction, where I guarantee you almost every executive in the auto industry is saying, really? Not sure I would do that. But Elon Musk has shown time and again he will do, and Tesla will do, things that others may not think are the smartest things in the world to do, and they have worked out in the past.
Do one thing here, just break this down. Number one, why would this be a good year for Bitcoin finally to have an ETF? Is there something about the SEC now under this administration that will make them more amenable where they weren't in the past? Is there something about the quality or state of Bitcoin that has changed that would make the SEC more amenable? And Jeff, you know very clearly the SEC has cited many specific instances why they don't want it, including custody issues, including the ability to control prices, because a lot of it's set overseas in what they consider questionable markets. So give us an overview here. What suddenly do you think has changed that would cause the SEC to approve a Bitcoin ETF?
Well, Bob, a similar approach to the way I strategically asked my wife to marry me. You know, around the 15th or 20th time I asked, she finally said yes. But all kidding aside, I think the Bitcoin ETF, and why I'm optimistic for 2021, it just gets exciting because here we are. I know we're celebrating the S&P 500 today, making a new all-time high above 3,900, but we're also celebrating Bitcoin as it nearly kissed 45,000. So as we see all this confluence of exciting data, I think we go back to why did the SEC say no for all these years? And yes, we did file Valkyrie Funds. It's a team of seasoned industry veterans led by our CEO, Leah Wall. But we have the ability and the confidence that we're seeing a change of guard at the SEC with Mr. Clayton leaving. But nonetheless, I think the maturity of the product, and that maturity of Bitcoin is actually being confirmed today with Ethereum futures being traded at the CME Group. So an additional crypto created in the futures market. But I go back to why is it going to happen in 2021, Bob? I think it's the fact that the SEC has been patiently watching, and they're really trying to make sure that trading and markets, that's the division of the SEC that has to get comfortable before any review of any filing, no matter how many filings of ETFs are out there. But once trading and markets get more comfortable with the actual concept of just Bitcoin and crypto in general, I think that makes sense. And the active and passive investors, they're trying to find a solution, a remedy to own Bitcoin. Trying not to forget their passcodes and their digital wallets. They're trying to find a more secure way of holding those cryptocurrencies. You take that and add on the fact that we're seeing a lot of companies like Tesla in the news today owning Bitcoin, or go back to last fall when we saw PayPal announce the fact that they're going to let 350 million of their users transact in Bitcoin or crypto. I think this is all coming together here in 2021. And more importantly, why we think we're different at Valkyrie, why we think we have confidence in our ETF. Of course, price is going to be a big piece of it, Bob, but also it's the expertise in trading markets, trading futures, and that should be assistive in adjusting the historical slippage or the historical premium to NAV and some of the other products. And the SEC is watching that component, that premium to NAV. And I think if they can offer a solution via an ETF, regulate it, and it can trade more accurately to the actual spot price of Bitcoin, that's the win-win solution for all active and passive investors, even the hodlers.
Jeff, you are a great salesman for your Bitcoin ETF, I have to say. But Dave, seriously, maturity? Is that really a reason the SEC is going to approve a Bitcoin ETF? And now that Elon Musk is endorsing it, we all know about that wonderful relationship he has with the SEC. I mean, if that doesn't get him over the goal line, I don't know what will, for a crying out loud. Go ahead, Dave.
I think,
enlighten us.
Maturity definitely does matter. And that is effectively what the SEC has said in rejecting or asking filings to be pulled, that these markets are not yet ready to be the target of ETF investors. Now, I think that is changing. I think Gensler coming at the SEC, between him and Peirce, they really understand crypto, and that's got to be a good sign. I'm maybe not quite as Pollyanna about it. I think maybe we're still looking at 22, but I do think it's inevitable, and I think we're starting to make that progress towards a sort of fully liquid, fully exchange-traded crypto vehicle of some sort, whether it shows up in a traditional ETF or not. I think the success we've seen of things like BITW and GBTC, which are not ETFs, they are pink sheet traded companies that happen to own cryptocurrencies under the hood. I think that is really going to force the SEC's hand. When we have companies like Tesla making Bitcoin a major balance sheet asset, and we have companies for whom that is their whole balance sheet asset trading on the pink sheets, I think it's going to get hard for them to say no for very much longer.
You really think so? I mean, I keep going back to the reasons they said no in the past. There was custody problems. They weren't sure of the security of custody, and the fact that the prices were still largely set overseas by markets they couldn't control. I think I'm trying to think like a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer, but how do you cure those defects? It seems like a tough one. I know the SEC. I was pretty close to the SEC the last administration. They were terrified that 5 or 6 years from now, they were going to get hauled in front of Congress and said, are you the guys who approved Granny buying the Bitcoin ETF, which was at $4,000 and is now at $400? I know they were really worried about the incredible volatility of that.
I think they were at a bit of a turning point there, because I think the SEC has to do something. And one thing they can do is approve these products and put them in a structure that we all understand. The other thing they could do, which I don't think anybody wants, nor do I think is predicting, is they could come down very hard against crypto and about this whole space, and start banning some of the access vehicles that we do have. I don't think that that's going to happen, but I don't think they can stand here on the head of the pin forever. And so I think we're going to see some structures that allow Bitcoin to show up, or any crypto to show up in a regulated product. We may not like some of the conditions, but I do think it's going to happen.
Jeff, last word on this one before I move on.
No, I think you see more of a sensationalized. You're not giving enough credit to what happened at the CME Group, Bob. The CME Group launching another cryptocurrency futures. I think that is a huge win for a Bitcoin ETF being approved in 2021.
Yeah, for my 2 cents on this, I'm waiting for a tethered coin. I think blockchain is the revolutionary technology here. I would love to see a tethered coin, a U.S. dollar tethered coin, a euro tethered coin. That will revolutionize trading. I'll be able to send money to my friends in London. I'll be able to move things around really quickly, and I think that will take away some of the intense interest in Bitcoin as a source of payment. That's my 2 cents.
You can send money to your friend in Chicago, Bob, anytime you want.
Yeah. Isn't it outrageous to you that it still takes 3 days to send, $100 to London? And J.P. Morgan still controls all that? And 6 banks essentially control all that? It makes me furious. That's why blockchain will solve all that. Blockchain will solve the real estate problem. Blockchain could even help solve the clearing problem that we had. Yeah. We all know that. That's why it's blockchain you want to promote, folks, not Bitcoin. Sorry. Editorial. Stop, Bob. Okay.
Maybe seeing a more broader acceptance of Bitcoin, but we also started the show talking about Bitcoin and another much less serious cryptocurrency, Dogecoin. The idea that Dogecoin can blow up, that Elon Musk is tweeting about Bitcoin and Dogecoin, does that undermine or taint Bitcoin by association?
No, I mean, it's one of these things where, Dogecoin is meant to be sort of fun and a meme. It's kind of like, the internet can be used for sending silly memes, but also for serious business at the same time. And crypto is like a financial internet. So you can trade meme stocks or meme coins on it, but also send real things.
Right, but this era that we're in, and certainly we've seen this over the last few weeks, the power of meme stocks, of, a group of retail investors, does that risk being confused? Does it risk scaring off more institutional investors, corporations, or countries eventually?
Well, I think, the internet is just influencing everything. And so the normal financial system is going to become more crypto-like, just like, media became more internet-like and politics, for better or worse, became more internet-like. So I don't think it scares it off. I think we just see a convergence of the two.
Balaji, I'm curious, if we're going to start talking about countries buying the currency for national security purposes, how price sensitive do they need to be? Do they need to wait for it to drop 50 to 80% before getting in, trying to ride waves of prior valuations?
Well, the thing is that it's, in one sense, buying digital gold is similar to buying gold. Like, central banks actually hold huge amounts of gold. I wrote an article on this. It's pinned to my top of my Twitter. They hold India, for example, holds 600 tons of gold. The US has like 8,000 tons. So the difference, though, is that buying digital gold, unlike gold, digital gold is still in its massive price appreciation phase. Personally, I think that if you're a long-term investor, you should just basically buy now. I've been saying this stuff not when Bitcoin's at 40,000 or whatever the price is right now, but since Bitcoin was at like $1 or less than $10. So I've been consistent on this for many years. At Anderson Horowitz, we bought very, very early. And so I think that it's still on the ascent, though, because maybe like 1% of the world or thereabouts holds BTC. To wait for it to drop 50 to 80%, you might have it appreciate 5x in the meantime. So it's hard to time that. But what you can know is that in 5 or 10 years, it's going to become probably much more valuable.
Right. We have had some, well-established money managers. Bill Miller comes to mind, who has come around to the idea of saying, look, take 1% of your cash and put it into Bitcoin. Are you advising anyone on a retail front, average households who have the income and the means to do this, to do that?
Well, I'm not giving specific financial advice. Everybody's going to have their own situation, but I do know that there are people, for example, who've kept several years, maybe, of cash as a cushion. But the thing is, whatever you invest in crypto, because it's volatile enough, it can go up 10x, it can go down 90%, but over the long term, it's appreciated several orders of magnitude. So whatever you put into crypto has to be money that you don't need to touch for a long time. So that 1% rule, I think, makes sense from that perspective, because you don't have to tap into that money to pay operating expenses. If you do need to tap into the money, then you might have to liquidate it when the price is down, and then that's how you take a loss.
Mr. Musk sitting around his house with his friends outside going, watch this, and then watching things happen.
That's a great question, Brian, and that's exactly what I think regulators are going to be concerned about. Certainly when you raise Dogecoin, Dogecoin was a joke, and it was put out there, kind of for people like me. I've always wanted to own Ponzi coin, but maybe, I'll buy some Dogecoin just for fun. It's like a pet rock. There isn't real value there, and he's diving into it, and maybe he's doing it tongue in cheek, but people are following him and they are purchasing it. And this joke is now, developing into something that people are going to lose a lot of money on. I would follow up on what Harding
Lisa, we can't, Lisa, to be fair, we don't know. Dogecoin, I know it was kind of created as a joke, named after that Sheena Ibu dog, but it is now trying to pivot to a true payments system. Ultimately, all of these things are just lines of computer code. That's ultimately what they are. So we don't really know how it's going to play out.
We don't, but it seems less likely that everyone will agree that Dogecoin is a form of currency as opposed to Bitcoin. Bitcoin has much more acceptance in the world, and you need to have a willing buyer and seller who are willing to use this currency for their transaction. I would not be very anxious to accept Dogecoin.
Well, that's you. But listen, others may be. Again, we don't. It feels kind of like Harvey Pitt, radio, maybe in the 1920s, trains in the 1870s. Remember, there used to be like 400 car companies in the United States. Ultimately, in a decade or two, you get down to 2 or 3 different winners, and they buy each other. Some go away. You know Mr. Gensler personally, I am sure. How well, I will not ask you, but he has made pro-Bitcoin comments in the past. He seems like he is crypto-friendly. What do you think, knowing what you do, will be the hallmark of regulation with the Gensler SEC?
Well, I think the comments he's made in the past are not necessarily indicative of what he'll do as chairman. As chairman, he's got to consider the responsibilities of the agency, and he'll be speaking in an official capacity. I also think that there are his fellow commissioners that he will want to talk to and determine how they feel about all this. I think Lisa made a good point. There are people who could get harmed in all of this. And the question is, should there be a regulatory system for cryptocurrency? And if so, what should that be? Now, I could say you could flip a coin as to who will regulate it, pun intended. But in the end, there will have to be a governmental response to this. The Treasury has issues, the Fed has issues, and so on. And I think this is a more global governmental issue than just one person in one agency.
Certainly, because Lisa, it is, that's the idea. It's decentralized anywhere in the world, although I think Nigeria just banned its banks from doing business in any cryptos, so at least they're taking more of a hard line. In your mind, is Bitcoin a, quote, security?
No, and the determination of whether something is a security is really up to the regulators and ultimately the courts. So we have court decisions. The great thing is here, the SEC eventually came out and said, look, Bitcoin might have started off as a security, or actually that was Ethereum, started off as a security, and then now it's not. Now it's a currency. They don't have to worry about securities regulation. So Bitcoin, no question, it's a commodity. Its trading is regulated by the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, not by the SEC. So that's very clear.
I guess also, yeah, Harvey and Lisa, will leave it there. I guess also as the story of the Silk Road taught us, if you were to make some of your profits in a rather, call it unique and outside the law way, you can now transact. Harvey Pitt, Lisa Braganza, thank you very much.